We have another great conversation for you today, talking about Therapy Thursdays here with Southwest Michigan's 97.5 Y Country. And when we do this, we bring in Jacqueline Rafter in from New Insights LLC. Jacqueline, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm doing really, really well.
Nice to
And,
see you.
I think the conversation topic that we have for today is really, really good because I feel like there are sometimes I even fall into this where, and my girlfriend will be the first one to say it too. I feel like I need to check with so many other people before I make a decision that's really only impacting me. And we're talking
Mhm.
about empowering
Mhm.
people. And can I give you an example? Because I'm kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
embarrassed by this. We'll go to a restaurant and she goes, "Oh, what are you going to get to eat?" I said, "I don't know. What do you think? Should I get this or this?" And she's like, "You're the one eating it, so like, why are you asking me?" So
Mhm.
it's little things, and it could even be bigger things. So talk to me a little bit more about really what empowerment means from your standpoint.
Mhm. Yeah, so empowerment really is about being able to make your decisions for you and not necessarily what's best for everyone else. And we're talking about those things that really do just affect you. We're not talking about bigger global aspects of things. But a lot of times when we want to make a decision for us, we want to make the best decision we can. And so, there's safety in a number of counselors. And so a lot of times we'll talk and, want to ask other people, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Nothing wrong with that. But then what happens is now you have people invested in your decision, and it no longer becomes about what is a good decision for you. It's now about who do I want to choose? Whose advice do I want to take instead of what advice do I want to take?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. You think about those big things like buying a car,
Mhm,
right? Buying
mhm.
a car is a big decision, but you'll have, if you ask people's opinion, like your friend who's a mechanic, and they're like, "Oh, get this brand," and then you ask your dad, and they're like, "Oh, you got to get this. I had this back when it was my day," and then you're like, "Okay, I've got two very good opinions. One of them I'm going to let down. It's a no-win situation." When really you should be focused in on yourself and what do
Yep.
you think is going to make yourself happy.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that example because what we're really looking at now is priorities. What is a priority for me, or what's a priority for you when you buy that car? Is it important? Is price important? Is it important that it's going to work in the snow? Is it important, to be able to do the mechanics on it? So there's going to be different pieces of it that are different priorities to different people. And so what happens is when people give you advice, a lot of times they're giving you advice according to what they would do, with their priorities, their skills, and what they know. And so you have to ask yourself, which of these pieces of advice, why do you think that's a good idea for me versus why is that something that you would do for yourself? Yeah, and I love the car example. So definitely a lot of times if you have someone who's really good at working on cars, they're not necessarily worried about how much maintenance it's going to cost because they can probably do a lot of that on their own. Whereas if you have someone who can't do any maintenance at all, they might really value a warranty versus another person. So just a great example of how you have to really think about how does that work for me?
Yeah,
Instead of worrying about people pleasing and who's going to be upset if I don't take their advice.
I think one of those big things that's going to be a transition for people when they're hearing this, like,
Mhm.
because when we first talked about this, I said, wow. And like I said at the beginning of this, it's a really self reflective moment for myself, even.
Mhm.
So, trying to turn these people from decision makers to a consultant form,
Mhm.
is there a way that we can take a first step that, kind of sets the pace for those people that we're having these conversations with?
Yeah, and I really think it's that question, why do you think that's a good idea for me? And then really just letting them know, I really appreciate your advice, and I'm going to take kind of everything that you've told me, and I'm really going to think about how that's going to fit what I need versus, because you do appreciate what they're telling you. And even if you don't choose what they have encouraged you to do, what you are is you're comfortable with that's actually not what's going to work for me. Because I think a lot of times when we want to make decisions, what gets us really caught up in making that final decision is that fear that we're going to make the wrong decision and then we're going to regret it later. And so when you've explored all the different options, you can say, no, actually, I think that that's not a good idea for me, and this is why. And you know for yourself what your reasons are.
Yeah, and I think that the thing that I was kind of getting at with that question, you really hit the nail on the head, is not only just telling them why do you feel like it's a good idea, but letting them know, hey, I'm in control of this decision. So
Mhm.
I appreciate your feedback. Thank you. I will take that in and see
Mhm.
which decision I make. And I think
Mhm.
that's so important. But this really is kind of the tip of the iceberg with a topic like this,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
this can fit so many different scenarios: how to buy a house, what to have for dinner, right? And that's another, even the little decisions when they do affect other people, people can get really, really hung up in just making a final decision. And especially, for example, if we're even just wanting to make what's for dinner, and lots of people are going to eat the same meal, someone's going to have to make that decision, and it's going to have to be okay if not everyone is super excited about that one decision that you made. But it doesn't have to be. Sometimes there's a lot of emotion that goes into decision making, and it really just doesn't have to be that emotional. It's just look at the logic, look at what are the facts, and decide what works for you. And especially if you're the one cooking, how much energy do you have today? That can be the first decision to make. So
Yeah.
empowerment really is about what works for me.
Mhm.
We want it to work for the other people in our life that are, maybe being affected by it or care about us. But at the end of the day, you're the one that has to live with your decision. People can have opinions about all sorts of things that you're doing, from what you're wearing to where you're working to whether you're getting married or not, or not getting married, or planning a family or not planning a family. And people will have all sorts of opinions about what you should do, but they don't have to live with those decisions. So you really have to decide for yourself, what am I doing? And just be comfortable with that, with your reasons for why you're doing it. And if you don't know yet, that's okay. Just take the time to kind of mull it over and figure it out. Ask people.
It kind
You
of sounds
don't
like
have to take the advice.
it sounds like an armchair quarterback situation, right? It's every Monday morning we can tell everybody that was playing football the day before what they should have done different, but ultimately it's not affecting them at all, right?
Mhm. And
Awesome.
there's so many things that go into, making life decisions that people on the outside, aren't taking into account.
Hmm.
Um,
Definitely. Let's say that we made the decision that, you know what, I want to talk more about this. I want to have a sit down here conversation with Jacqueline. What is, first of all, the process to be able to do this? How do we set this up with you, or even another counselor
mhm,
with New Insights LLC?
mhm. Yep. So if you want to get better at making decisions at all, or just feeling more empowered or in control of your life, you can give me a call, 269-325-5056. And we can talk about a little bit more. I can do a 15-minute, just a free consultation, and we can talk about what's going on in your life, in your scenario, and see if that can be a good fit for you. And then after that, we schedule you to get started with a full intake, and we kind of listen to the whole story of what's going on and all those other dynamics, what makes it hard to make decisions for you, and see what we can do to get you feeling a lot more empowered and in control of your life.
Excellent. And the cool thing with New Insights LLC is you guys are modern, right? You are making sure that there are different ways that we can
Mhm,
make this happen, including virtually. So if we're
mhm.
not in Berrien Springs, it's perfect.
Yep, absolutely. So it's easy, and it's convenient. We can do face to face right here on video, and we can even do a phone call. A lot of times, folks who have trouble making decisions have other worries and fears and anxieties, and a lot of times, even just being seen on video can be difficult for them. And so we can even just do it over the phone if that's more comfortable for you to get started with.
Excellent. And of course, that phone number is 269-325-5056. And we'll get you in touch. Jacqueline, always great information. I always look forward to our, learning a little bit more every single time that we have a conversation. And today was another day for that, too. So we look forward to the next conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Yeah, you bet. New Insights LLC. It's Therapy Thursday with Southwest Michigan's 97.5 Y Country.